Buon pomeriggio a tutti, ben ritrovati, grazie di essere qua. L'incontro di oggi pomeriggio abbiamo un grande onore per noi perché si parlerà di contract e si parlerà di contract con probabilmente la persona che più di tutti ne sa e negli anni ha lavorato insomma, a livello internazionale con a grandissimi livelli, con grandi progetti. Abbiamo qui con noi TIHANY, un applauso. Vedo che in platea insomma, ci sono molte facce anche conosciute. Adam nasce in Transilvania, ha diciamo una vita così, sempre in movimento, diciamo. Passa un periodo in Israele, a Milano negli anni 70, dove viene a studiare al Politecnico e trova il modo soprattutto di formarsi come designer e come professionista in alcuni dei migliori studi di design e di architettura allora. Poi ancora, sempre in movimento, approda negli Stati Uniti, giusto? All'inizio degli anni 80, dove trova finalmente casa e istituisce insomma, il suo studio di architettura. Negli anni mette in piedi insomma, questa grandissima realtà, lavorando a grandi progetti di interior, soprattutto, e in questo caso è un po' il soggetto della nostra chiacchierata oggi, progetti di hospitality, insomma, quindi nel connubio tra design e ristoratori, grandi chef, eccetera, trova diciamo, la formula per sviluppare poi il suo linguaggio progettuale. Quindi oggi insomma c'è una presentazione dei tuoi progetti, insomma. Quindi io vogliamo sentire insomma dal signor TIHANY in prima persona il racconto sul serio. Parlo in italiano perché capisce benissimo l'italiano, quindi...
Grazie.
Lascerei la parola.
Buon pomeriggio. Come vedete io parlo italiano. Però siccome non è la mia madrelingua, effettivamente è la mia quarta lingua, ho difficoltà a parlare tante ore italiano. E mi dovete scusare perché io dopo 45 minuti devo cambiare lingua. Siccome le altre lingue che parlo non penso che qui la gente capisca, almeno che non ci sono degli ungheresi, no, niente ungherese. Ebraico, niente. Arabo? Vabbè, allora io mi hanno concesso l'opportunità di parlare italo-americano. Allora comincio con americano e dopo forse la parte seconda di questo incontro lo possiamo fare in italiano, una domanda alla volta per favore, perché e se faccio degli errori mi dovete scusare. Ok?
Va bene.
So, whoever doesn't understand my English is out of luck. This was another €5, by the way, per person. So what I'd like to do first of all is try to get to know each other, because it's important to know where you're coming from in order to know where you're going to. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. That will take about an hour and 45 minutes. And then we'll have 15 minutes in Italian for questions. No, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my history, And then I'm going to show you some of my projects so you understand what I do. And I'll explain to you also why today I am your best friend here. Because I am your client, basically. So you can ask me anything you want later on in Italian or English, in Hebrew, Hungarian, and Arabic. And I'll be happy to share with you my experience. And hopefully, by the time we're finished, you will have a pretty good understanding of how we do what we do in terms of design and architecture in the United States, especially or particularly or in specifics with the contract world. And if you know how we do the business, the connection will be much faster and much easier, provided you're willing to listen and you're willing to maybe put your ego a little bit on the side before mine, and then we can do business, right? So, I'm going to explain to you a little bit the Italianization of Adam TIHANY and why I am who I am. And there are some people in this room that know me almost from the first day that I arrived to Milano, especially particularly there's one gentleman in the back, a guy by the name of Mario Armellini, who I think you heard of his name. You know, if you didn't, you know, you can introduce him. He has to leave him. He knows the story. He made the story. Well, he gave me really my first job in Milan, you know, which I am who I am because of this gentleman. So thank you. But before Armellini, I had a little bit of a couple of years of trip. How did I get to Italy? And this is an interesting little story, and why I studied architecture. I grew up in Israel, and in 1967, like every good Israeli, I joined the army. So at the time that I joined the army, 1966, I'm sorry, the time that I joined the army, the military service was 2 years. In the middle of 1967, something happened, which was called the 6 Days War. And I was sent to the Suez Canal, and little did I know that they added another 1.5 years to my military service. So by the time I finished, I was up to here with the army, with the war, with everything. The only thing I really wanted to do is to go abroad and study someplace. Now, there was a little bit of a problem then. There was no internet. There was no fax. I mean, the process of research was a little bit different than Google.com, it was very different. I couldn't go to the United States or to England because my parents weren't rich enough to pay for the school. So to complicate the research, I had to find a school that was that was, owned by state, that wasn't too expensive, that was accepting Israeli students, and the year was 1969. I don't know if anybody lived here in 1969, but think back what that means. So from my research, I found out that there were 2 schools in Italy that were accepting students from Israel. One was veterinary medicine in Bologna, and 2 was architecture in Milano. Now, if I tell you that the only thing I knew about what was architecture is that I did not want to be a veterinarian. I said, cows, sheep, I'm not sure. Maybe architecture is good. So I packed up my things and landed in Milano on a nice November day, 1969. Shit. I don't know if anybody has been to Jerusalem, but if you have, you know that the light, no pollution, beautiful. You know, Milano in November 1969, with nebbia up to here, was pretty scary for somebody coming from Jerusalem, because I couldn't see anything. I could not see anything, but I found somehow my way to number 9 Piazza Leonardo da Vinci, Politecnico di Milano. Now, besides the fact that I didn't want to be a veterinarian, I didn't speak a word of Italian. Actually, I spoke 3 words. It was ciao, pasta, and pizza. That was my Italian. So I go to register, and I walk into this beautiful place, and 5 minutes later, boom, tear gas, bombs, everybody's running around with red scarves, just screaming. I had no idea what was going on here, none. But I knew that this was not my war. I just left one war, you know, with real bombs. Now I'm coming here and I see these crazy people running around, screaming and stuff. But I knew something about guerrilla warfare. You know, I had 2 years in the Suez Canal. So I figured, you know, maybe the best thing is to go and sit in a police car and see what happens. So I sit in a police car outside full of police cars, and they start putting in the students, boom, 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 everybody in. We go to the questura. Now, I don't know a word of Italian, and I don't know what's going on. And I'm a little bit in shock because it was foggy, and I couldn't see anything. So, but I do remember the first thing that was very obvious is that something was wrong, because everybody was registering under the name Carlo Marx. Carlo Marx, men, women, everybody. So I get to the policeman, and he says, "What's your name?" I said, "Adam Tiani." And he looks at me like this. He says, "Not Carlo Marx." I said, "Adam Tiani." In English, I want to go to the embassy of Israel. And he says, "Passaporto." Now, you know hand gestures. Italians speak with hand gestures. And so do the Israelis. In Israel, this means 1 minute. So I say 1 minute. He looks at me like, I said, 1 minute, no. Let me get my passport, 1 minute. And he gets more and more upset. I didn't know that this means this in a small, you know, I had no idea, you know. It's like, no, you know, it is different countries, different. So I end up at the police station, and the ambassador, they send somebody from the embassy, take me out. Well, this was my first day in Milano. I'm kidding you not. And I said, "What's going on here?" I said, student revolution, Paris, Red Summer. I said, I was in the Suez Canal during the Red Summer. I had no idea that anything was happening in the world except the will to survive. So here we go. So this is how I started this was my introduction to Italy. And it's important to remember that everything happens by coincidence. You know, I went back to the university, and I discovered that there was not much going on in terms of studying. You know, the university was completely occupied by the students. Discussions about the population of China, about this, there was no architecture, no design, no anything. But I felt very guilty that my parents, you know, Jewish, are very guilty all the time about everything. And I felt guilty that my parents sent me to study, and I'm sitting here talking about the population of China. It was fascinating at the time, because nobody knew anything about the population of China, really. And the fact that I didn't understand Italian was even worse. So finally, I said, if there is a way to study this profession, it's by apprenticeship, by looking for work at an office of an architect or a designer. And in comes Maglio Armelini, who disappeared conveniently right now. I had a wife then, and my wife was teaching languages, English, and somehow she got to meet Maglio's father, Tito, who took pity on me and introduced me to a certain Dallago. It was in Adalberto Dallago studio. It was on the same floor as the offices there. It was Rassegna magazine. Right? And I got a job working in the studio Dallago as an apprentice. Now, apprentice in those days meant that you did blueprints. You know, blueprints all the time. I don't know if anyone of you remembers the days of blueprints. It was fun because it was a lot of ammonia, which works at times better than marijuana, you know. So I was stoned most of the time, but I was in the blueprinting, doing blueprints and folding and doing blueprints and doing blueprints until one day, one of the designers in the office felt sorry for me. And he says, come, sit down, I'll show you. Can you use a pencil? I said, no. I'll show you how to use a pencil. And can you know how to use the T-square? I said, no. And that's how I learned design, by the old school, apprenticeship, by somebody that I don't know if he saw a potential in me or he just wanted somebody to help him out because he wanted to go out for coffee or whatever, but I ended up learning how to do this from a very kind gentleman that took pity on me. And then slowly I somehow progressed in the business like everybody else, and I discovered that at those years there was not really work. There's no real work in architecture. The country was poor. There was no investment in public works. I mean, people and the architects turned their talent and energy to many other things: furniture, lighting, exhibitions, interiors, graphics. We did all kinds of things. We were involved with the Salone del Mobile, designing stands and doing the graphics and it was fascinating. It was absolutely fascinating of how a small thing can be a product of great dimension. How you design a chair, and you design the packaging, and you design the graphics, and you create this amazing consistency of a product. I mean, you create something that comes from one mind and not 15 departments. And this is how I learned the business. This is how I learned how to design. And when the time came, 1973, there was a big exhibit in the United States called the New Domestic Landscape in the Museum of Modern Art that was curated by Emilio Ambas. And it was the introduction of the Italian design to America. At that point, I mean, all the great architects of Italy designed products. Everybody designed products, they designed exhibits, environments, so there were great signatures, beautiful consistency, great design, completely different. The first plastic chairs with Joe Colombo. I mean, everything was just starting. It was 1973, presented in New York, and the Americans were blown away. They were blown away. I mean, I think they were sick and tired, basically, of Danish furniture, and and also of the modernism, the Charles Eames and Mies van der Rohe and so on. So there was no alternative until it was presented from a little country called Italy. Products that were made of materials that nobody thought that could be transformed into furniture, design that was completely free and exciting. And as a result, 1974, this American company, contract per excellence, like the traditional office furniture company. It's a company that designed purely offices in the United, big spaces, 3,000 square meters, 10,000 square meters, came to Italy looking for an Italian designer to come to America and open a studio with them. So instead of bringing Italian design, they were thinking maybe we bring an Italian designer. And they came, visited our office, and Said, anybody wants to go to New York? It's great. I mean, all my life I wanted to go to New York. I've never been to America. So here I am, an Italian designer in New York. They didn't know I was Israeli. I don't think so. I mean, I was, I had a very, I learned very quickly to be Italian because I liked it. I thought the Italians were cool and sexy and beautiful, and they knew how to dress, and so on and so forth. So when I decided to come to the United States, my Italian friends would say to me, come? Vai a New York. La gente si veste male e si mangia malissimo. That was the two things I clearly remember. That was really the reason why not to go to New York, because you cannot find a good suit and you can't eat a good pasta. I don't want to remind everybody here in this room that the hottest restaurant in Paris is Ralph Lauren, and the most fashionable stuff to buy is J. Crew, and it's not that many years ago. Huh? So things change. Americans learn how to dress and to cook. The San Pellegrino 50 best restaurants in the world, 17 are Americans, 2 Italian. What happened? Where did we left off the train? So before we get to that, I come to New York, and I work for this company, which was called Environmental Research and Development, for a couple of years, doing some Italian stuff. I don't know what I was doing, really. I couldn't wait to get on my own. But I was very much involved with the community of the Italian expats, the Italians that were starting to come to New York to open businesses. One of them is here today. It's Mr. Luti here, who used to be with Versace when I met him. And we designed one of the first showrooms of Versace, the first one in the United States. So I was, doing all kinds of things, like sort of in between, très union between the Italians and the Americans. Sort of. I was like, I spoke both languages. They trusted me somehow. And I met, in one of these opportunities, I met a gentleman by the name of Sandro Pianon from Venice, who was a very famous decorator. And he had a project in New York called, it was an apartment, a residential project. And through friends we met, and he wanted me to be his office in New York. So, by the way, the apartment was a 3,000-meter project. It was designed for a gentleman by the name of Adnan Khashoggi, who at the time was the biggest arms dealer in the world from Saudi Arabia. There were 110 rooms. I remember because we had 175 doors. When the container arrived with doors, nobody has seen so many doors made out of Radica with details and stuff. So after this project, I put away a little bit of money, and I opened my studio. And here comes the interesting part of the evening. This was just an antipasti. People would ask me, what do you do? I said, I design. And he said, what do you mean you design? What do you design? I said, give me the problem, I give you a solution. I'm a designer, I'm Italian. No, but you do furniture, you do interiors, you do architecture, you do, what do you do? Graphics, what? I do everything. Well, to make a long story short, it was very difficult to convince anybody in the United States that you are a factotum, that you can do more than one thing. Everybody wanted you to classify yourself, to have a title, the specialty, because if you don't, you're nobody. Nobody trusts you in the United States. So for 3 years, I tried to fight because I refused, my Italianship was coming from all over the place. I refused to be American. I didn't want to be classified. No food on the table, obviously, because nobody gives you anything to do. It was pretty complicated, but we managed somehow to survive. And because in that time, I don't know if you remember, it was like the late 80s in New York. They had the late 70s in New York. We had something that was called the disco. The disco was the place where people lived. They also went to work, but they lived in the disco. So from midnight until 6 in the morning, you were in the disco. That's where you met everybody, Studio 54, Le Jardin, and I designed one of these things. And one night, I meet a disco. It's about 4:30 in the morning, and he says to me, "Do you want to do a restaurant?" Some French accent. I said, "What?" "I can't hear you. The music is loud." He says, "Do you want to design a restaurant?" I said, "Sure, I want to design anything. I'm starving. Whatever you have, I'd be happy to do." So turns out, it was 1979. The restaurant in question was the first Grand Cafe in New York City. It was 250-seat, a replica of the Parisian La Coupole on 32nd Street and Park Avenue in an area where there were no restaurants. It was, a magnificent space. And because the owner was in the disco every night, he didn't even remember his name in the morning, I had all the responsibility. I was doing the furniture, the interior. I just picked the china. I designed the graphics. I picked the uniform for everything. I was Italian. I found a niche. I found a little area where I could be Italian. I could do architecture, design, interiors, graphics, everything, if they let me. 1981, in the middle of a snowstorm, this place, La Coupole, opens up in New York. There are lines around the block to get in, and Andy Warhol couldn't get in. Next day, it was in the newspaper. It was the biggest success in New York City. At that point, I went and I bought a sign that said, Adam Tihany, restaurant designer. And what I just told you is the birth of the profession. There was nobody calling themselves a restaurant designer. So for all of you Italians, I just want you to know that when everybody says I'm a restaurant designer, you know that's because somebody wanted to be Italian. And that's an important story. So now you have the connection, okay? You understand where I come from and why is Italy so important to me, from the first job. Not bad. It's only 30 minutes. Whew. Okay. Second part of this, I want to show you some projects because I know you're all in this business, and I'm very proud of my projects, and they're all pretty sexy. You'll see. But, from restaurants, we progress to hotels, and from hotels to cruise ships, and so on and so forth. But my focus is primarily on the hospitality business. Now, the hospitality business is a very versatile business. It's a very dramatic part of the world of design. It's also a very accessible part of the world design. The reason it is important is that in the hospitality world, which is travel and tourism, you can really affect the mood of the people. I mean, we don't create places to eat. or to sleep. We create an event. We create a world of fantasy. We create things that people can lose themselves for a couple of hours and live another life without leaving the city. If you're in New York, I mean, you can be in China one night, in Japan the other night, in the Middle East another night. You can be in Texas the night after. You can be anywhere just by simply going to a restaurant, by simply tasting the flavors of the world. You can go and see good design without opening one magazine. You can walk into a lobby of a hotel and learn something and see something new, an innovation. You can walk into, you can't walk into anybody's house, really, if you want to see nice design. But the hotels are showcases of beautiful, talented architects and furniture and the way to use furniture and so on and so forth. So the public spaces are the most visible showroom almost in every city of what can and cannot be done with architecture and design. So we view our world as an important window to display news and innovation and creativity and fantasy. We all know that I mean, it's very hard to sell the Italians on beautiful restaurants because for them, I know, the most important thing is the food. You will be surprised to know that most people in the world do not consider food the most important thing when they go out. They go out to be entertained. They go out because they don't want to sit home by themselves. The cities, the big cities in the world, are the boxes where you live in are this size with a little shitty kitchen, and you just don't want to be home alone. You want to meet people. You want to feel, if you think, ask yourself, why didn't the video and DVR industry kill the cinema? Why didn't it kill the public cinema? For a very simple reason, because people don't go to the cinema because they want to be with other people. They can watch the same film at home, but who wants to sit home all the time? Why do you want to eat in front of a television, from a box that you heat when you can go for 2 hours and be served? You can look at the menu. You can pick food. I mean, I don't think anybody's mother usually gives you the menu at home, No, but this is very important. It's all about communication with people. It's all about community. It's all about being in an event that allows you to feel and see how other people react. I mean, we go to the cinema, frankly, to see how the other people laugh about what the joke. It's not about us. It's about, we are insecure. We don't know if to laugh or not, but if somebody else laughs, we laugh also. So it's all about that, So we facilitate this by giving people a beautiful room, a beautiful environment, a place where they can actually, besides just eat, they can feel good. Lighting. I mean, I hate the lighting in the restaurants in Italy. They're awful. I mean, nobody understands that when the women look beautiful, the men spend money. What is so difficult to do nice lighting? Make the skin look good, rosy, beautiful. It's not that complicated. I mean, I'm sure there are lighting manufacturers here that make the fixtures. You can certainly do a nice, nobody thinks about it. It's not about it, it's just about the food. Boom, they drop the food on your table, no ceremony, tack, like this. Why? That step is something that the rest of the world knows about and the Italians don't. What's wrong with you guys? I will make a revolution here. We demand good lighting in restaurants. Why not? They put lighting, but it's not good. It's just like this, no? Anyways, I'm not going to speak more badly about the Italians. I'm just going to show you some projects, okay? Let's see. Would somebody explain to me why this conference called Il Contract è Servito, please? Anybody? I have no idea. Okay, how does this work? That's good.
Yeah.
I'm technologically zero.
Yeah.
Boom.
There you go.
Okay. Now, how do I do this? Right.
Right.
Right. Okay, this is just a little bit of an introduction to the explanation of what contract is. And in essence, it's it's anything that's not residential, that's not the home. And in the United States, which we will be talking about the United States later, most contract products are available only through the interior design trade. The interior design trade means through architects, designers, decorators, and so on and so forth. And it's a very important distinction to have. And I think it's just a blank statement. If you want to soak it in, we will discuss it later, okay? So, a couple of restaurants just to show you what we do. Sirio. Sirio is the name of the owner of a couple of very important restaurants in the United States. You might know him as Sirio Maccioni. I specifically decided to start with a very famous Italian. And Sirio Maccioni is arguably one of the greatest maître d's that the United States ever had. He is in his 80s now, but he still he sits in his restaurant all the time. Very special man, a Tuscan, 110%, from Montehatini. One of my dear friends and my mentors. Now, I designed all of his restaurants, but I just picked a couple the couple with his namesake, and these are two different examples. One is in New York, one is in Las Vegas. So the restaurant in Las Vegas is a much bigger restaurant. It's, quite contemporary. It has a lot of special venues, wine and cheese and bars and so on and so forth. The important thing here in these pictures is just to make sure you know that every piece of furniture here comes from Italy. And so does, the murals, obviously. I mean, we use murals in art in a very architectural fashion. I mean, we want to put you right in the little street in Italy so you feel that you're transported, you're out of Las Vegas and you're someplace else. Now, a couple of words about Las Vegas. Las Vegas is by far, I don't know how many people have been to Las Vegas here, but by far is the most important design laboratory in the United States. It's a city that pays a huge premium on entertainment. It's a city that continuously changes. And it's a city where the owner, the design brief that the designer gets, if you're lucky, is blow away the competition, which is more a provocation than an actual design brief. They have to compete with each other all the time, and they have something that's even more important than that. They have the money. They're willing to spend. They spend millions and millions of dollars on, One of the latest nightclubs in Las Vegas cost $75 million to build. It's a nightclub. And it grosses, you know, $10 million a month. Nightclub, just from drinks, no food, no anything. So there is a huge machine that makes money. And they are completely and totally committed to investing the money into making things better and bigger and stronger and so on and so forth. So for a designer and for a furniture manufacturer, this is a dream project. Somebody that says, blow away the competition and here's the check. Anybody here against that philosophy? No, I don't think so. New York, Sirio is in the Pierre Hotel, very small restaurant, but also totally charming and beautiful, a little bit of a throwback and homage to the Dolce Vita. Here too, all the furniture is from Italy. You know, I try to control the situation, and you know, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult than others, but we'll get to that in the second part of the conversation. So these are some images of you know, a couple of projects in New York and Las Vegas. This is a project in Seoul, Korea. Seoul, Korea is probably the second to Japan, the most wonderful place to work in for a designer. It's the only one of the very few places in the world where you give the contractor a set of drawings, you come back 3 months later, and you find a better project than the one you designed, and nobody asks anything, they just do it better. They are so proud of the quality of their work, of the workmanship, of the success of the place, that, you know, they call you for questions, but that's it. So this little restaurant here, very complicated details, very much designed, very, you know, it's sort of a take on the Vienna Secession period. You can see the marble floors, the details. It was crazy complicated. This was built, executed to perfection in 3 months. 3 months' time, no questions asked. When we came back to see it, I said, wow, this is, you know, we did a whole hotel in Korea in this term. There was, I think, 4,000 square meters, 4 floors of a hotel that was completely ripped out and redone with swimming pools, with spa, with all, you know, you name it, 4 restaurants and everything. 4 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days. Done. To perfection. By the way, all the furniture from Italy. I will repeat this after every project just to get you really excited. Per se, in New York, #1 restaurant in the United States. The chef Thomas Keller is arguably one of the most famous chefs in the world. He, 3 years in a row, was the best #1 restaurant in the 50 list of San Pellegrino. A wonderful man. He's from Napa Valley, California, where he has a restaurant called the French Laundry. If, you know, takes, I don't know, 4 months to get a reservation. If anybody comes to New York and needs a table, don't call me. It's well worth it. It's absolutely an amazing race. Now, he's an interesting gentleman. He's a Francophile. He loves French. So what we have done here is design this room and furniture that is, in essence, it's a contemporary French interior. I mean, the moldings on the wall, the details are all the same proportion as you will find in Paris, but it's done in a very different key. So Incidentally, all furniture made in Italy. Need I have to repeat this? No. It's a little bit more traditional, but quite amazing. You know, it's a 60-seat restaurant, not open for lunch, only dinner, 7 days a week. And I think last year they made $16 million. So it's not cheap, in case you want to call me for a reservation, you know. It's not cheap, but it's a completely amazing experience. It's actually over on the 4th floor of the Time Warner building overlooking the park. Yeah. And all the details were made out of woods that we collected in Napa Valley. You know, it's a big story here. Some of the furniture that we designed for Thomas, you know, it's a bit, as you can see, it's very French in style, but it's also modern. It's not an old-style restaurant. On the other side of the world, a fantastic market also is Dubai. Now, this thing here is a very unique restaurant because it's the tallest restaurant in the world. It's on the 123rd floor of the Burj Khalifa. You know, when you get into the elevator, yesterday we were at this wonderful event at the Pirelli building, the 31st floor. And when I walked into this elevator, I was thinking of Burj Khalifa, where it takes you exactly 36 seconds to get from downstairs to the 123rd floor without a spacesuit, just like that. So it's quite an amazing, I mean, just the view is on a clear day, you can see the shadow of the building that goes all the way out to the island worlds. It's over 1,200 something meters or something crazy. But what's interesting about the space is this, that we recognize that there are two kinds of people. There's people that immediately go to the window, and there are people that come out and don't move. They're afraid. So the restaurant was designed upside down. There's the center of the restaurant that is designed for the people that don't like the view. It's not that they don't like the view, they're afraid. Normally, in a bad day, you don't see anything because you're so high. Sometimes you see one bird going around like this, hardly breathing because it's too high, but otherwise you don't see anything. But in a nice day, this place is magical. So you arrive, you see the walls on the inside are all very soft, curved, beautiful, undulating wood walls that keeps you're almost like a yacht in the sky. You know, it's very soft and how do you say, coccolare, which the opposite of going to the window. When you get to the window, you're like, oh my God. You know, you realize that if there is a fire, you're screwed, you know, up here. But it's a pretty fantastic place, and it's an interesting place to see a city that, for a lack of another explanation, I think the strength of the imagination of the people behind the development of Dubai is so magical that the city is not beautiful, but it is full of this crazy energy of somebody that says, yes, we can do it. There's not anything that we cannot do. You want to take the ocean, put it on the other side, we can do it. You want to build the world on the ocean? Unbelievable. It's really, there's no, you know, when you talk to people in Dubai about projects, it is so magnetic, the enthusiasm of doing something that nobody has ever done, that is just fantastic. I mean, you know, how many times you deal with people that the first thing is no. We can't do it. Too complicated. It's illegal. We don't have the money. Here, it's the exact opposite. We find a way. Let's do it. The crazier the idea, the better. So you know, in a way, to build a building like this, any place else in the world, I can't imagine what it takes. I mean, it took us in New York City, in the most important piece of real estate, which is called Ground Zero downtown, it took 10 years to get a shitty building up, one, and just everybody's still talking about it. 10 years. They would have built 16 of these in Dubai. You know, so, you know, this is a pretty special place. I don't know if anybody worked there, but you certainly should try. From the top of the world, I'm going to take you a little bit down to earth, not even down to earth. I'm going to take you on a cruise ship. I don't know how many of you work in the cruise industry, but that's another industry that is in huge development all the time. And you have a couple of very big Italian companies that play a very, very major role in this business. So this one was a dining room that we did on the Royal Caribbean Solstice line. There are 6 of them. And this dining room sort of revolutionized a little bit the cruise industry because nobody before did these kind of things. It's a 1,500-seat restaurant. I don't know if any one of you have been to a 1,500-seat restaurant, but it's big. It's very big, and it's very architectural. And the great thing about this is that every piece of furniture is made in Italy. And I forgot to mention also in the top of Burj Khalifa, by the way, just in case. So this is another industry that we should talk about a little bit later. And I'm going to go to a hotel. Otherwise, we'll be here all day. Now, Jewel Hotel in Dallas, boutique hotel. I'm going to give you 3 different categories of hotels that are very different. Boutique hotel, 160 rooms, an old building in downtown Dallas, part of the renovation of the whole downtown Dallas. Here, we designed something pretty unusual. The idea of our hotels, and as you will see, is that they're all very site-specific. When I say site-specific, I mean they very much belong to where they are. The idea is, if you're in Dallas, you want to feel that you're in Dallas, not in Chicago or Bologna or the whole notion of hotels that are a chain that is the same is all gone. Every hotel now is unique. It's unique to its place. It's authentic. It creates an authentic atmosphere. It creates a connection to the place. So when we start the project, we usually brainstorm ideas with the staff and say, what is Dallas, to everybody. And what happened here was the one word kept coming up when you talk about Dallas in terms of design, and it was oil. Oil. Always the word oil came up. So what we thought maybe it would be interesting to create a hotel that is based on oil. So the lobby is actually a contemporary oil derrick. It's where you drill. You see the big chain, the big thing that turns around. This is the reception desk. It moves all the time, and it makes that oil noise. The restaurant is called Fuel. The nightclub is called Crude. So this sort of a metaphor was oil for us in Dallas. But, this is the Crude nightclub. But what was interesting is the room product. Again, made in Italy. The sinks, the bathrooms, everything was made in Italy. And, even things like this, which is the reading light. If you look at behind the bed, you have those reading lamps. We developed all these products with Italian manufacturers, and we had a great time. And the interesting part of this hotel is that it's very much in downtown Dallas, and the views, we try to bring all the views into the room. So you're in almost like an office building with a very dark and moody atmosphere because of the oil metaphor, because it's a trip, it's a voyage to the center of the universe. The light comes in from outside, but you can see how the exterior and the interior relationship is pretty magical. We did some crazy suites. Even, obviously, everybody can recognize Gaetano Pesce's chair over there. That use a lot of the mirrors and the graphics. You know, you don't really know which one is a window, which one is not a window, and it's actually a reflection. Very sleek, contemporary. The art has a lot to do with the voyage to the center of the universe. So I just thought you would be interested to seeing what a boutique hotel looks like, a boutique hotel with a certain character that is very inherent, very local, and in a way, to me, is very Italian. So this goes on and on. These are penthouses with pretty sexy bedrooms and terraces, and you know, here you cannot really tell what's real and what's not real. You know, this is how the views pan out. On the other side of the country, Beverly Hills Hotel, Dorchester Collection. This here is it's a 100th anniversary of probably, arguably the most important hotel in the United States. It's the epicenter of the Hollywood power. And here we needed to give this hotel the California look, the relaxed, luxury, casual style of California. And that's what makes it site-specific. As you will see, the projects are very, very different. They're all really don't have to do with the hand of the designer more than, but they have to do with the personality of the occasion. Very pretty, very feminine, you know, very green and pink, you know, which is the typical colors of Beverly Hills. Obviously, the pool and the cabanas and the palm trees and, you know, welcome to Hotel California, as they say. What I want to stop by and show you something quite interesting. This thing is the Polo Lounge. The Polo Lounge is the office of 7 of the most important producers and directors in the world. From Coppola to David Geffen to Katzenberg, every morning, if you want to see where the deals are made, it's right in this room, here. And these chairs that are made in Italy, and the other ones too. This place is the center of the community of Beverly Hills, center of the entertainment, and really the most powerful room in America. Strangely enough, it also has a garden. And I'll come back to that later. The room product, it follows up a little bit more the style of the lobby. It's very, you know, California, for a lack of a better expression, and that's what it has to be. It's colorful, it's bright, it's, you know, very voluptuous and sexy. And this one actually is the Marilyn Monroe suite. This was the suite where she was engaged for the second time, I think. Incidentally, you know, Elizabeth Taylor grew up in the hotel. I mean, Howard Hughes had 3 bungalows. I mean, you name it. This whole history of Hollywood is in this place. So this just to show you a different kind of a product. It's very different than the boutique hotel. And the third one is actually a 400-room hotel in Las Vegas for the Mandarin Oriental Company. And this one is a very stylish Asian-style hotel. Now, It's not Asian, but it's what people think is Asian. You know, we deal with tourists that have a perception. It's nothing to do with the reality. It has to do with what you think things are. And contemporary China, to the Americans, looks a little bit like this. So we need to figure out, you know, how people view the concept, because it's site-specific. It's Las Vegas. Again, people love themes. This was the first actually Asian hotel in Las Vegas. You get off the elevator and you see this wall. And this is the wall of gold, the money shot, as we call it. It's like, boom, in your face. It's billions of gold on black marble background, which represent contemporary China, to anybody that really cares to think about it. So from there, you move on to the hotel, which is very sleek, very Asian in feeling, but Asian Las Vegas, you know, Asian perception, not Asian reality. The bar here, again, you can see Paris from here if you look a little bit down the street. On the other side, you can see the pyramids of Giza. You know, you can be, you know, all around the world on your chair. You don't have to go anywhere. Signature restaurant, chairs made in Italy, thank God. Twist, it's by Pierre Gagné, one of the greatest chefs in the world. Very magical little restaurant. This is the all-day dining, which is breakfast, lunch, dinner. Spa. I thought the Italians will enjoy this picture, particularly of the spa. Spa rooms, pool. I mean, so every single piece of furniture here is custom designed and built for this hotel. When you come to 400 rooms hotel, you know, it's hard to compete with the Chinese. And indeed, the room product was all made in China. Suites, not bad. This is Will Smith's suite. This one here is Jay-Z and Beyonce like this pool for some reason. This, you know, you get all the reports of who's using the suites and stuff. Now, the last two things, one I want to show you is really my true Italianness. This is a project that we just finished a month ago. We're very proud of this. It's one of the, you know, few projects that I did in Italy. It's the Oro restaurant at the Cipriani Hotel in Venice. And this is all Italian. There's not one thing, well, I should qualify that. Some of it is Venetian, which is not always Italian, but it's also in Italy, I think. So this one, we renovated this whole place. We did a new enoteca, all the outdoors, even all the way down to the lamp on the table, hurricane lamp. We worked with Seguso, with a whole bunch of, and this is really very befitting for one of the greatest hotels in the world, which is the Cipriani on the island of Giudecca. We created this wonderful kitchen, which is basically their buffet, which get closed in the morning, open at night. A lot of wine everywhere, and this is the main room of Oro, which looks like you're on board of a fantastic ship on the lagoon of Venice. And we've been very fortunate to be able to get some beautiful glass pieces from the great master Luciano Vistosi that are in the restaurant as well, you know, because the view is gorgeous, but at night what happens is it becomes black, and the inside becomes the lagoon, because the glass reflects the area of the lagoon, and it's like total magic. So I highly recommend it. Please go when you're in Venice. I know everybody's leaving in half an hour to go to the Biennale, but okay, the last piece of information here that I want to share with you is how we do the work. And this is how we present the projects, because at this particular juncture is where you guys come in. I mean, you need to get me before I do this, because afterwards it's too late. So the way we present our projects, and I'm not going to tell you what this is a hotel. It's a boutique hotel. It's a 100-room boutique hotel that we just presented recently. We are in the phase of doing working drawings. And the way it goes is like this. We start with the floor plan, obviously, and this is just, let's say, the podium level where you have the lounges and it's a small hotel. I'm not gonna, I hope they didn't leave the mark where it is because I can't tell you where it is. We show the selection of furniture like this. So these are what we call mood boards. And every piece of furniture gets selected and shown to the client, these like big format like so. And we do renderings of what the room is gonna look like, putting in the furniture. This is all in the phase of presentation. When the client comes to us after the brief, this is what they see. This kind of, you know, again, mood board and what it's going to look like. And this is quite often, my job is to make sure it looks like this when it's finished, which means the selection of furniture, selection of lighting, the carpets, the fabrics, every single. With this, we also have all the fabrics and the hard materials, the marble, the stone, and so on and so forth. Like, for example, this hotel is going to have a restaurant, which is in essence a diner, like an American diner. So the very different style in the hotel, you know, this is the idea, the mood board, and it's going to look like this. So a bar in the roof with the outdoor furniture. Again, selection of furniture, details, explaining a little bit the mood, and then following up with a 3D design, which is, it looks like a photograph. And you know, after this, we don't have many questions from the owners. They get it sometimes. Outdoor furniture, terrace, and this is the typical room. Room product is quite important because they have quite a lot of these. So mood board, style, feeling, mood board for the bathroom, details, and then the renderings of the room itself. One view, two views. And that's that. So. Now I have to switch to Italian.
Grazie, grazie mille. No, grazie per la presentazione, direi che ci ha dato un'ottima idea di tutto il processo. Quindi io ovviamente avrei qualche domanda. L'intenzione è quella anche di aprire alla platea, abbiamo un gelato che possiamo far passare per se avete domande, reazioni, eccetera. La cosa che personalmente mi colpiva, e vorrei subito così rompere il ghiaccio e chiedere, lavorando ecco, in così tanti continenti, quindi immagino sotto tantissimi diversi general contractor, in situazioni diverse, clienti eccetera. Mi interessava capire forse ancora più, in modo più specifico, parlo in italiano, poi possiamo passare anche in inglese, come riuscite a mantenere un controllo sui tempi, sulla tempistica ovviamente, quindi dello sviluppo del design, ma soprattutto anche sulla qualità, visto che questa è l'immagine, abbiamo visto il risultato, in between cosa succede tra l'ideazione, il dialogo appunto con i supplier, con le aziende per sviluppare questi sogni, questi progetti, insomma.
Allora, noi in ogni paese dove lavoriamo, che è fuori gli Stati Uniti, ci appoggiamo ai studi locali per avere almeno il supporto per poter avere i permessi, delle cose legali, norme, tutte queste cose qua. Quello che è molto diverso negli Stati Uniti, che è diverso dai progetti che ho visto qui in Europa, è che i disegni, la documentazione che facciamo è molto molto più dettagliata. Le specifiche sia dei materiali, di metodi di costruzione, cioè proprio sono dei capitolati grossi così, che quando noi consegniamo questi disegni, l'imprenditore che li manda fuori per chiedere i prezzi, normalmente ha un rapporto molto, diciamo, controllato con diverse aziende che presentano preventivi. Quando disegniamo un mobile o un divano, cioè non è che specifichiamo quante molle ci sono dentro, però il disegno è abbastanza dettagliato per non dover chiedere delle domande di tipo basilare per poter fare i prezzi. Poi naturalmente chiediamo che tutti i fornitori forniscano i shop drawing che noi controlliamo. Io ho un ufficio a Roma che non fa altro che seguire i progetti nell'Europa e nel Medio Oriente e in Asia. Cioè loro praticamente sono specializzati di implementare quello che abbiamo disegnato noi vis-à-vis quelli che producono i vari costruttori. Perciò il controllo è molto rigoroso, per esempio l'ultimo progetto che vi ho presentato ci mette 3 anni a farlo, non è che è una cosa che succede. Per noi il processo dei disegni è più o meno 1 anno, dopo c'è un processo di bidding che sono 3 mesi più o meno, e dopo quando vanno in costruzione normalmente passano 2 anni prima di fare un albergo di 100 camere o di 400 camere. Così. E allora c'è un controllo rigoroso sempre. Come ho detto prima, così in tanti paesi come Corea o Giappone è un piacere, perché praticamente loro si impegnano a consegnare un progetto perfetto, perciò proprio il loro orgoglio, diciamo, nazionale è di fare meglio di quello che si può fare. E quello purtroppo negli altri paesi non è il caso.
Qualche domanda?
Ok.
Alla platea? Sì, ci abbiamo una qua davanti.
La scelta del fornitore quindi viene fatto dal titolare del progetto, quindi non viene fatto da voi come studio, la scelta del fornitore di mobile, tappezzeria.
Noi il capitolato, le specifiche che diamo al cliente identifica ogni produttore, il nome, indirizzo, tutto quanto. Adesso il cliente non fa sempre quello che gli diciamo noi. Il cliente molto spesso ha degli uffici acquisti, ha della gente che conoscono loro, però non possono cambiare nessuno delle nostre specifiche senza farcelo vedere a noi. Però tutti i fornitori originali sono sempre menzionati nel capitolato. Allora, questo è quando si sceglie dei prodotti di cataloghi e di serie. Mentre i prodotti custom, noi diamo raccomandazioni con chi lavorare. E chiediamo, diciamo, allora se voi volete fare una sedia nuova o un comò, una scrivania nuova, una lampada nuova, noi lavoriamo con 1, 2, 3, 4. Vi suggeriamo di interpellare loro, chiedere un prezzo, poi se volete aggiungere la gente che conoscete voi, io non ho quel potere di dire di no. In certi casi, per i progetti più piccoli, per esempio i ristoranti, molto spesso facciamo il purchasing noi, come studio. Poi appunto lì io controllo tutto e anche lì andiamo vedere la gente che conosciamo, o se vogliamo trovare delle cose nuove chiediamo diversi preventivi. Comunque il controllo dipende dalla dimensione del progetto. Più grande è, più difficile controllarlo dallo studio.
Qualcun altro?
Sapete tutto? No.
C'è uno qua davanti.
È una conversazione, no? Don't aver paura, io non faccio male a nessuno.
Che differenza di budget c'è su un albergo 5 stelle fatto negli Stati Uniti e un albergo 5 stelle fatto in Corea? Per ogni camera.
Se
Dico questo
sapessi i
perché la mia
prezzi in
impressione è
Corea,
che
se
negli
sapessi
Stati
i prezzi
Uniti
in Corea te lo direi, però io sospetto che costa almeno 50% di più.
perché la mia impressione è che negli Stati Uniti in particolare si tenda a deprimere anche la qualità e anche la durata dei prodotti, perché si tende a spendere possibilmente meno all'inizio. Io sono andato in parecchi ristoranti, in parecchi alberghi, dopo qualche anno si vedono i segni dell'età in maniera molto evidente.
Ma questo è un altro discorso. Secondo me in Corea il problema è il sistema di tasse di importo anche, che il governo protegge molto l'industria locale. Io sono riuscito a mettere questi prodotti dentro perché erano pochi, perché non c'era tempo a reinventare la ruota lì, erano prodotti custom ed erano disposti a pagare. Secondo me se li facevano a Corea costava di più.
Sì?
Costava di più, però credo che c'è un 50% di tasse di importazione sul mobile a Corea, su certe cose. No?
No, non in Corea del Sud.
La Corea del Nord,
Del
non ho
nord
fatto
Giulia.
niente.
Ci sono anche lì
Del Nord. Non sono...
Un altro qua. Ah, ok.
Sì, volevo sapere, il vostro pacchetto fornitori di mobili è sempre, si mantiene costante o avete un turnover periodico?
No, io amo lavorare con più fornitori possibili, però alla fine, come in tutte le cose del mondo, siamo leali, abbiamo amici, si sviluppa amicizie e uno continua a lavorare con le stesse persone anche se non sono perfette, lo sai. Però c'è una simpatia, sai, e questo è il made in Italy mio, no? Io posso tollerare certe cose se, diciamo, il prosciutto è buono, alla fine, però sono io, però non sono normale. Come la storia mia l'avete sentita, io non sono uno che non valuta l'amicizia, però alla fine del giorno la reputazione è sempre mia, perciò se uno mi frega la prima volta e la seconda volta e la terza volta vuol dire che lo voglio io. Ma alla fine la differenza fra il contract e il residential, che le implicazioni di essere in ritardo sul contract sono soldi veri. Se uno non può aprire il ristorante, non può aprire l'albergo perché mancano i mobili, perde milioni e milioni di dollari al giorno. Io vi ho fatto vedere la nave, ho parlato con l'armatore, l'altro giorno eravamo a cena e mi ha detto che c'è un cantiere navale, che non voglio dire da dove, non è in Italia, che è in ritardo di 6 mesi di consegna di una nave. La penalità sono 500 milioni di dollari. Non solo sono 500 milioni di dollari, però ha detto che sono felici a pagare 500 milioni di dollari perché per recuperare questi 6 mesi gli costerebbe molto di più. Allora uno capisce che queste cose, diciamo, se loro hanno già venduto dei viaggi, alberghi tutti venduti, e noi eravamo 2 settimane fa pronti per finire un albergo a St. Petersburg, Russia, per l'Economic Forum. Grazie a Dio che Putin è andato in Ucraina, perché metà della gente che voleva venire è cancellato, perché l'albergo non era pronto, perché loro hanno già venduto tutto. Ha detto alla fine, grazie a Dio che Putin almeno ha fatto sta mossa, perché gli americani sono venuti e loro hanno cancellato le camere. Però se venivano i danni sono enormi se il progetto non finisce, no? Cioè, allora il contract è molto time sensitive, non è una cosa con cui uno può dire vabbè senti, tanto arriverà il mese prossimo, quello non funziona. Ciao.
Ciao. Volevo dire, noi aziende ce la mettiamo tutta per fare dei prodotti comunque belli, qualità, tecnicamente anche avanzati, insomma. E spesso purtroppo nei capitolati vostri, tra l'altro io ho lavorato anche con il vostro studio un paio di volte, si vede la specifica dell'azienda, il prodotto, il tessuto, eccetera. 90% delle volte il contractor, Turchia, Cina, Polonia, soprattutto nell'imbottito, adesso non so quanti siano nell'imbottito qua in zona, però succede questo. Io mi sono confrontato con tanti tuoi colleghi in giro per l'Europa, diciamo, andando a lamentare questa cosa, non lamentarmi, perché sfortunatamente poi noi prendiamo solo quelle 7, 8, 10 suite che fanno sulle navi, nei grandi alberghi, così, e allora l'orgoglio di fare 7 divani non ci porta, poi non ci ripaga di quello sforzo che abbiamo fatto magari di 1 anno, 2 anni di lavoro nel progetto su cui abbiamo lavorato per fare disegni preventivi, misure, cose speciali, eccetera, eccetera, che poi spariscono sempre nel nulla. Quindi questo è un po' per noi un problema per noi in Italia, perché non possiamo fare certi prezzi.
Secondo te è perché non potete fare prezzi?
Sì.
Secondo
Perché
te è solo questione di prezzo?
No, infatti noi non potendo fare il prodotto economico lo fanno copiare da...
Ma secondo te è solo questione di prezzo?
Sì, purtroppo sì, perché io mi accorgo che dove ci sono i 100 pezzi io prendo solo i 10. I 100 fanno fare il preventivo a me e poi vanno da un'altra parte. E vanno, so anche dove, perché poi io ho la fortuna di avere altre connessioni, quindi vedo i miei prodotti essere veicolati sotto forma di altri materiali in altri paesi e vedo l'ordine sfuggire da altre parti. Questo succede spesso, devo dire spessissimo.
Lo so, purtroppo sì, ma non sono...
Quindi scusa, volevo solo dire che cioè non è bello che voi scegliete, lavorate per scegliere, perché guardate un'azienda, la qualità, la tecnica, come va, come procede, e poi arriva uno che dice ma no, questa non mi interessa e vado a prendere un'altra.
Allora, purtroppo naturalmente noi siamo nella stessa barca con voi, perché a noi ci sono due cose che uno fa fatica a difendersi col cliente. Uno quando dice che è illegale e numero 2 quando dice che non lo posso permettere. Perché illegale uno non vuole neanche muovere in quella direzione. Se non posso permettere vuol dire che devo scrivere un assegno io. Perché se loro non vuole spendere i soldi, questo è un altro discorso. Però molto spesso purtroppo la gente che decide non è sempre gente che ci crede alla qualità. Non è sempre gente che dice vabbè io sono disposto a spendere un po' di più, adesso non dico 3 volte di più per un po' di più, però ho un prodotto che mi dura di più, che fa bella figura, che fa a me orgoglioso di poter farlo. Ti do un esempio di uno dei progetti che ti ho fatto vedere prima, il Beverly Hills Hotel, Polo Lounge. Tutte le sedie, l'unica ragione che il cliente ha accettato il prodotto questo qua era semplicissimo il fatto che il fornitore ha promesso che in 60 giorni consegna un prototipo perfetto per conto suo, fatto, prototipo perfetto, fatto, finito. Il cliente, il purchasing agent del cliente è andato a una ditta americana per fare il comparison, no? La ditta americana, dopo 30 giorni che non ho ricevuto i shop drawing, che ho chiamato il purchasing agent, ma dico, ma che succede? Ah, una sedia non sta in piedi, stiamo parlando di disegni, quello è già perso 30 giorni, no? La sedia non sta in piedi, dico, ma scusa, l'altro lo sta facendo, sta in piedi, no? Sembra che sta in piedi perché lo stanno facendo in Italia perché sarà pronto tra 10 giorni perché lo devono spedire, ci vogliono 20 giorni. Da una cosa all'altra, l'americano, che si vede che non aveva tanta voglia di prendere il progetto, ha fatto fare la sedia in Cina. È arrivato come si dice a Brianza, una cadrega di merda della Cina che sembrava un carro armato fatto da, non lo so, da 4 persone a Shenzhen. No? Il prototipo italiano era perfetto, sembrava un vestito di Armani, no? Costava 3 volte di più. 3. Non 2, 3. No, 3. Allora, è arrivato il CEO del Dorchester Collection da Londra, tutti zitti, ho messo le 2 sedie, uno vicino all'altro. Quello lì guarda così, si siede su una, si siede sull'altra, si siede su una, si siede sull'altra e mi fa: una è come Ferrari, l'altro sembra una Toyota di quelli che stanno recall, li portano indietro perché hanno fatto quelli che provano. Dico, ma come si permette a presentarvi queste 2 sedie? Io cosa vuoi che scelga? Dico, beh, quello lì, la Ferrari, costa come una Ferrari. E lui mi fa, senti, abbiamo il ristorante più importante del mondo, abbiamo i clienti più importanti del mondo con le case più belle del mondo. Vuoi che non capiscano che la sedia non è fatta bene? Oddio, sono 100 sedie, falli fare bene. Però non è facile trovare questo cliente. Però per arrivare a quel punto il fornitore italiano si è impegnato a andare 3 passi di più. Però può darsi che andava anche male, non lo so, però è andata bene. Molto cioè, il prodotto italiano, diciamo la verità, è secondo me non solo superiore dal punto di vista estetico e di qualità, ma è superiore non so, c'è qualche cosa magico qui che va dentro il prodotto, non so come si chiama, l'italianismo che va dentro il prodotto. Per me il Made in Italy non è un prodotto, è il saper fare. Il Made in Italy è il fatto che la gente davanti alle montagne va al di là, lo fa, lo vuole, cioè vuol fare delle cose belle. È nel vostro sangue, vorrei dire anche nel mio, però sono un bastardo già così. Però lo vogliono fare un bel prodotto, ci tengono e ci mettono tutto, no? Il fatto che non si vende non ha da fare col prodotto, non ha da fare col lavoro. Secondo me, purtroppo negli Stati Uniti non ha da fare solo col prezzo, ha da fare con una cosa molto semplice che è una reputazione pessima di anni di problemi con consegne, con tempi, con tutte queste cose che forse tu sei giovane, però qualcuno qui a un certo punto ha fatto un gaff. A un certo punto, finché fai 10 pezzi, 15 pezzi, 20 pezzi, non c'era mai un problema. Secondo me la prima persona che ha preso l'ordine di 1000 sedie, che ha detto sì, 1000 sedie, e poi è rimasto lì che non sapeva come farli, ha cominciato a dare una cattiva reputazione al prodotto italiano. Perché ha detto sì, lo posso fare, poi va 4 artigiani dietro alla bottega che non si è riuscito a produrre, però a quel punto lì, anziché prendere il telefono e dire scusate ma non riesco, non risponde al telefono, non risponde ai fax, sparisce, no? Numero 1. Numero 2, il mondo attorno a noi lavora 24/7, 365 giorni all'anno. Non vanno in vacanza in agosto, non vanno in vacanza, non c'è la festa niente. Se uno via 3 settimane, c'è qualcun altro che entra dentro. C'è poco da fare, No, non volevo offendere nessuno, ma quando uno si addormenta ci sono quelli lì che stanno lì, arrivano, zac, ti fregano, no? Io non ho un cliente che posso dire, senti, ordina prima di maggio perché prima di metà agosto deve essere fuori bottega perché dopo, se no dopo perdi mi guarda e mi fa scusi, io apro 1° settembre, me ne frega niente se ci sono, cioè, ma non sono disposti a ascoltare queste cose.
Fino a un po' di anni fa la maggior parte di noi chiudeva 10 giorni in agosto e basta. Fino a 10 anni fa.
Lo so.
Sì, abbiamo.
Ancora una domanda, se posso. Chiedevo quando
Due
basta, dopo non
prego,
dico.
prego.
Però è entusiasmante. Dicevo, quando si progetta una cosa one-off, per esempio per Las Vegas, si riesce poi cioè voi potete riprendere questo prodotto e proporlo a un secondo o a un terzo cliente a Dubai invece che a New York, oppure concettualmente quando si disegna un prodotto per quell'albergo è solo per quell'albergo e quindi non replicabile dopo in altre, penso ai vostri fornitori abituali che fanno più alberghi.
Si può offrire il prodotto in esclusiva. Se uno chiede proprio il prodotto in esclusiva lo devi chiedere prima della progettazione, non dopo, perché i costi sono diversi. Se io disegno una sedia per te, la vendiamo a un cliente, perché non sei libero a venderlo a un altro? Se il cliente dice ah no, vabbè, allora pagate per la progettazione della sedia, pagate i royalty, pagate tutto quanto, tienitela, però normalmente noi facciamo un prodotto che è 100% custom quasi, perciò, e poi siccome i progetti sono molto diversi, noi non riproponiamo tante cose, però per esempio se uno fa 6-7 ristoranti per qualcuno, io ho fatto tutti i ristoranti bici, un 28, vabbè, naturalmente usavano la stessa sedia, la stessa lampada, perché volevano una unità, no? Però tipicamente non c'è, se c'è un contratto di esclusiva è una cosa, normalmente si può proporre il prodotto ovunque.
D'accordo. Qualcun altro in sala? Direi che forse...
Sì, ma
per alzata di mano. Quante sedie? Va bene, allora ringrazio di nuovo Adam TIHANY. Devo fare un annuncio io, finisco io.
Finisci.
2 minuti, vi rubo 2 minuti per ringraziare il... non funziona più. Vabbè. Questo incontro è stato appunto organizzato e promosso eccoci qua, dall'Ufficio Promozione Internazionale di Legno. Queste sono alcune delle attività che i vari desk in tutto il mondo offrono alle aziende associate, quindi organizzazione di missioni B2B, incoming delegazioni estere ai vari eventi Federlegno durante l'anno. Ideazione e realizzazione di eventi per la promozione della cultura dell'abitare nel mondo e scouting di progetti nelle varie parti del mondo, parlando direttamente con i progettisti, cercando di trovare opportunità, insomma, per i nostri associati. Quindi chiudiamo qua. I prossimi eventi calendarizzati, insomma, sono questi. Come vedete si va dall'Israele, la Russia, l'Iran, Libano, Messico, Kazakistan fino al Nord Africa. Questi siamo noi. Questa è la slide forse meno interessante. Grazie a tutti di nuovo e continuiamo col forum.